Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'll go by the name of Dr. Heinz, and thank you so much for tuning in once again. I would like to thank all the new subscribers that that subscribed onto the channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. I would also like to thank all the viewers that watched my previous video, which was, I wouldn't call this video a continuation of that video, but it does touch on a couple of things about Bot Sentinel that I did want to cover in another video. I mainly wanted to cover and do a deep dive into the system, but Chris Bouzy has dropped something into our laps that that I would like to go over today. So yeah, that's the main purpose of this video. He has done a breakdown thread on Twitter on how the scoring system actually works for Bot Sentinel. Now, it was unexpected. I didn't think he would do it. And I thought this would be a good time to check it out and go through it with you guys. So if you haven't seen the previous video and you wanted to know how we got here, because it's literally based on Nate, I would suggest you go and watch the first video that's on the channel. It's not that long, and it does detail a lot about how we got here and what started all of this. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and let's get on to the breakdown of Bouzy's Bot Sentinel True Threat. Just a quick disclaimer: make sure you do your own research. Go out there and find out for yourself regarding Bot Sentinel. Don't just go by my video or other people's videos. We live in an age now where I have to say that it shouldn't have to be said, but a lot of people tend to now rely on information that they see online. So I want to encourage people to do their own research and to be informed themselves. Right, so let's get on to the thread. Right, so it says here, Christopher Ellis Bouzy posted this on the 7th of October. He starts off the thread with, there has been a lot of mis and disinformation about Bot Sentinel and how it works. So this thread will explain the training and classification process and how to use our analyzer properly. This thread will also answer some of the common questions we receive. Basically showed it as machine learning 101. Good introduction. And as you can see, he's going to talk about his scoring system and how he analyzes the accounts that is being inserted on the Bot Sentinel analyzer. So the first part of the thread, he goes on to say the name Bot Sentinel means autonomous guard. In other words, we use a good bot to identify and guard against inauthentic accounts and toxic trolls. That also includes automated accounts that violate Twitter's rules. Bot Sentinel classifies a lot more than just bots. Now, the one thing that stuck out to me there is where it says inauthentic, toxic trolls, ends with bots. He finds a way to skate around the words I cannot actually identify bots, because the one thing that he has always purported and always said is that Bot Sentinel can detect, can identify, and will guard you against bots. He said that. Everyone knows that. Now, he switches the word around a bit. Inauthentic accounts, okay, that could mean a bot. That could mean a human impersonating someone else. That could really mean anything that isn't authentic, and authenticity does include bots. A bot is technically not a human, it's not an authentic human, but it can appear to be a human. Just by that alone, I know the way he skews things and the way he plays around with words, this is already off to, well, it's already making me doubt his system a little bit, because you're not really saying that you're actually looking for bots. But it says here, he ends with saying, Bot Sentinel classifies a lot more than just bots. You didn't say anything about a bot. You didn't say anything about detecting a bot. You didn't say anything about guarding against inauthentic accounts. So why does he keep using this word bot? I do not understand. Nonetheless, automated accounts as well, I must make clear. I can create an account for my YouTube channel, and I've done this for my when I was a DJ. I have actually created for my DJ account. I used it as a personal account, but I have also done a schedule of tweets using Buffer, where I had actually scheduled tweets to be tweeted at this time, this time, and those times were primarily when I was in university lectures and I wanted to get my mixed CDs and promote the parties and the events that I was actually DJing at, so that I can still meet my contractual obligations. I wouldn't really say contractual obligations because it wasn't written out in the contract, but I would still meet the promises that I've made to the club owners that I would promote the event. So I would do those things to meet those promises and say, look, see, I did actually put out tweets at the to promote your event, so I'm all more clear. So I would put out an automated message. This falls into automated accounts. So I technically, in that time when I was a DJ and have my DJ account, would fall into this realm of automated accounts again. So this guy is playing. He's playing with words, because for the average user, for the average person who doesn't really know much about these things and never used Twitter for any other purpose than just tweeting, they're not going to tell the difference between an automated account and a human controlled account, if that makes sense. So I was kind of an hybrid of that. If I'm going by my exact words as I just broke it down, I would be classed as an hybrid of an automated and a human account, if that makes sense. So to me, that's already vague enough for me to understand this is not really going to be. It's not going to be the most clear cut or definitive thread to say this is what we do, this is what we do. Is going to play around with words a lot. So to me, it's not going to be honest as I would like, because again, like I said, he's just playing around with words, and it's not really going to he's not addressing the elephant in the room per se. So he goes on to say, just because an account is an automated doesn't automatically signify a nefarious account. He's right. I just explained that from what I just shared. There are thousands of useful and benign automated accounts, but Sentinel doesn't care if an account is human controlled or automated. It identifies a policy violation in tweets. Now, I like that one, in all fairness, because that is true. There are accounts solely set up just to be automated and put out tweets, and there are accounts that is also human controlled. Doesn't mention hybrid though. He doesn't mention that you can have both that do automate their tweets. Doesn't mention anything like that. So already you are in this binary thinking of it's this, it's that. But you will never, without using an account in a certain way, because I use my account for PR, and usually automated accounts are used for PR reasons. He did not give examples of the type of automated accounts. And in all fairness, for this exercise, I personally don't know or seen any automated accounts apart from one. There was an account that was created that was actually automated. It came out, it showed it on the profile of the account, and it received a 0% rating, 100% problematic rating, then back to 0%. So already there, this guy cannot detect bots. But it's an account set up to say it's called wife beater dep. So we already know what it's set up for. And it's set up, it says, hello, welcome to this account. This account serves the purpose to daily remind haters and losers that John Christopher Deck II is in fact a high court certified wife beater, and no amount of tears and tantrums will change that. Happy tweeting. Okay, hashtag Johnny Depp is a wife beater. Fair enough. Set up for that purpose. Okay. It tweets out Johnny Depp is a high court wife beater. I call wife beater. Keeps tweeting it out. Keeps tweeting it out. Keeps tweeting it out. That's all he tweets. That is fine. That's fine. To me, read that. Okay, there is nothing. It doesn't go against Twitter rules. It doesn't seem to violate, as Bouzy said, its machine is set up to look for those problematic tweets and policy violations. That account doesn't seem to violate on the face of it. We don't like the message, but doesn't violate the account. That's automated. So it doesn't mean it has something nefarious behind it. I can agree. It's posting a factual information. Yes, it was found a wife beater in the UK, where NGN was ruled that the information that they relied on to print what they are printed. Yes, the judge in that case allowed the Sun to run the story that he was a wife beater. So they allowed him to call him. So the court allowed the Sun to call him a wife beater, basically. So posting that out, nothing misinformation there. It happened. It doesn't say if it says Amber Heard won the UK case, then you can say nope, it was actually NGN. That is misinformation, etc. Okay, all of that. So that you can see what I'm trying to say. But in terms of what Bouzy is saying here, he's not actually wrong. Maybe he hasn't put in the hybrid information I shared earlier. That's fine, but it's not wrong by what he says here. So he gives an example. He goes on to give an example saying, "Bot A tweets inspirational quotes, Bot B tweets COVID-19 disinformation that violates Twitter policies. Bot A will receive a low Bot Sentinel score, and Bot B will receive a high Bot Sentinel score. Both are bots. Bot A is harmless, while Bot B is problematic." Straightforward. No need to analyze that there. I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. The same is true for human controlled accounts. Human A tweets about baking cats. Human B tweets about election disinformation. I mean, it's a bit loose. You can also say human B tweets about baking and cats for Nazis. I don't know. You can tweet something like that, and I'm pretty sure that would violate Twitter policies in some way, because you mentioned Nazis, and I don't think Twitter allows that. But I get what you're trying to say. Human A would tweet about cats. Human B tweets about election disinformation. Human A receive a low score. Human B receive a high score. That makes sense. All Bot Sentinel cares about is what the account is tweeting. Keyword, tweeting. All right. So how exactly does Bot Sentinel work? It's pretty straightforward. We use millions of samples to train our models, labeling samples good, labeling and bad tweets. We use Twitter rules as a guide to determine which tweets are labeled bad. Sample selection is everything. He's not wrong in a scientific study. You need samples to run your experiment. In a survey that you conduct, in a market research study, anything you conduct, you need a sample. I'm going to use my own personal experience. When I used to before I ran my club nights, I did a survey to find out which events and which events they would prefer. My survey came back with theme nights. I done theme nights, specifically a comic inspired theme night. It went well. People came dressed up as comic book heroes. It went well. Done. Over. So we all need that sample to kind of gauge how something is going to perform, and in order to receive the best possible result. So he's right. Sample selection is everything. But what goes into the sample is also everything. What goes in there matters. But in this case, it says we use millions of samples to train. Labeling the samples as good and bad tweets is not scientific, basically, because you're the one doing the handpicking of the tweets. He says he uses Twitter rules as a guide. This is very different. This is very different. I hate that word guide because it just means I'll look on the guidelines, on the Twitter guidelines, and I'm gonna pick out an account that, yes, it may not violate the guidelines, but I am also gonna make a subjective opinion on this account based on what I've seen, even though I may agree or disagree that violates Twitter policy or not. I'm going to choose that it's a bad tweet. I say this because a real scientific study in this case would have actually used the Twitter rules, inserted instructions, or give an instruction to the algorithm to follow strictly those rules and decide which accounts from there, rather than him picking. Does that make sense? Because he's saying here, we use millions of samples to train our models, labeling the samples good and bad. He's the one doing the handpicking to this, rather than letting the system go and pick it itself, basically, rather than him typing in a code to like for example, running on Excel a run between system 1 to 20, and then telling the system choose between 1 to 20, and the system probably picks 16, and then you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna pick 16, and then that goes into the analyzer for a good or bad tweet. For example, I'm gonna pick 16, and 16 goes into your sample without you having any influence on it. You just pick the number, bang, pick the number, bang. That's it. Not the other way around, where you're picking one and giving it to the computer, and then the computer goes by the rules that you're setting for one. Does that make sense? It's I don't know how to explain it better than that, because that's how it's coming across to me when he says he's picking the good and bad tweets. That, to me, that just means you have done the subjective judgment, and you have put it into the system to be analyzed and determine whether it's good or bad, rather than build the code on the system and have the system run through Twitter itself, if that makes sense. Run through Twitter itself and pick the accounts out for you. Am I making sense? Probably not. But let's go. but I'm gonna move on. Here's an examples. Good tweet. I love it. I love avocados. Again, showing how he's picking these tweets. Showing how he's picking these accounts and tweets. Bad tweet. I want to shove an avocado up your a-hole. Now, I don't think this really violates Twitter policies. Maybe it incites violence or whatnot, whatever. Good tweet, who's celebrating Kwanzaa. Bad tweet, Kwanzaa is for dirty. That clearly does violate a Twitter policy. And I'll get to that, why his machine even fails at that. Good tweet, I want a new car. Bad tweet, I want to kill Jews with my car. Good. This examples that he's given does give him the license to go out and pick the accounts that he deems good and bad and put it into the machine, so that it can run a sample selection to determine what comes in and what and to determine the scores from what I've seen here. So again, he's the one. He's basically framing it as he has to do the picking. I'm not a computer science whiz. I must disclaim that. I don't know how you can do the coding so that the computer can analyze this on its own without you having no input in it. So basically what I'm saying is you have to have some input in it. I do understand that that line, but it's him picking which accounts that we don't know. So he's giving us an example here, but what I'm trying to say is, bottom line is, how did he pick this account? Which are these accounts that went into the sample, etc. I will explain more and more as we go along, because he does go into the breaking down of the sampling process. He goes on to say, we've built a tool that to automatically label samples for the training process. So I think this is what I was talking about earlier, that it has to be automated. Sorry, let me start again. We have built a tool to automatically label samples for the training process, but we also manually review samples because selecting samples isn't always clear cut. This is the difficulty that I was trying to bring together, because I do understand the difficulty of the position he is in when putting all of this together. This is what I'm trying to say. If he's the one that also manually reviewed the selected samples, what goes into that machine and what comes out is going to be influenced and skewed towards its perception and not necessarily an automated machine. This is where I guess is where I'm having a problem. Again, also, why is he the one doing this and not an independent body? And the reason why I say an independent body is that would be the most logical step to take, rather than him doing it himself, if that makes sense. So the independent body doesn't have any biases towards the people that he does. He just hires them, and he basically lets them pick the samples, run it all. He just gives them the policy and says, look, read through that policy, find sample Twitter accounts that could violate that policy, and build the algorithm from there. I'm just saying, if I wanted to present a free and fair informative information, I would definitely hire an external team to handle that process, and then I will refer them. I will put a referral to that team so that people can ask them questions on how they got it done, so that I am free from this bias that people are claiming me of. That's what I would do personally, but I will continue. It says, we have built a tool to automatically label samples for the training process, but we also manually review samples because selecting samples isn't always clear cut. Example, I want my B word with a stud versus I am a stud who can mate with any B I want. Selecting the samples is the most crucial step. It's not wrong. We added an extra proprietary step to the process to ensure the samples we use will improve the accuracy of our classifier. I can share that step, but I can say monitoring accounts help us improve the sample selection process. And he says, note, in a recent interview with Wired, I did share a proprietary step with the reporter who interviewed me. I actually shared a lot of what we do for the record. So let's go into his article to see what he talks about in regards to the proprietary step of the process, that he uses to ensure that the samples improves the accuracy of the classifier. So the article says, Christopher Bouzy is trying to stay ahead of the bots as the person behind Bot Sentinel, a popular bot detection system. He and his team continuously updating their machine learning models out of fear they will get stale. The task, sorting 3.2 million tweets from suspended accounts into 2 folders, bot or not. That's okay. That context is actually very important. So if these are from suspended accounts, you can pretty much gauge what's going into algorithm to detect these potentially bot accounts or troll accounts, if that makes sense, that has been suspended in the past. That's actually a good sample to use. That's actually it's not just the way he worded it in the tweet just made it seem like he picks any old account. if he's using this from suspended accounts, he probably should have put that into the tweet. But nonetheless, we're here. If he's using suspended accounts, there are accounts that has been suspended and reinstated. So there is also that side of it. And some accounts get suspended for mass flagging, which they may have not necessarily broken Twitter rules. It happens. So, well, is it reliable? Not everything is reliable. I have to say that. But what he's using, this suspended accounts. Once your account is suspended, how are you going to read the tweets? Don't know. But anyway, to detect bots, Bot Sentinel's models must first learn what problematic behavior is through exposure to data. And by providing the model with tweets in two distinct categories, bot or not a bot, Bouzy's model can collaborate itself and allegedly find the essence of what he thinks makes a problematic tweet. Again, it's what he thinks. It's what he thinks. So even though he's using that as the template, this is not what's going into the machine. It's what I'm trying to say. Because this is probably where Twitter comes in, because Twitter gives him control of the API. Does Twitter now allow him to get information from these suspended accounts and check their tweets? Perhaps. I don't have that information. He doesn't disclose that information. I will never know. But is it possible? 100%. They do. They probably do store tweets from these suspended accounts for whatever reason. And they have got an API agreement with them. So again, we don't know. We don't know what's going on. Okay, training data is the heart of any machine learning model. In the burgeoning of field bot detection system, how bot hunters define and label tweets determines the way their system interprets and classify bot-like behavior. According to experts, this can be more of an art than a science. At the end of the day, it is about a vibe when you are doing the labeling, Bouzy says. Quote unquote, at the end of the day, it's about a vibe when you're doing the labeling. Quote, it's not just about the words in a tweet, context matters. Okay. That's pretty much so basically he's basically saying someone could say the N-word in a tweet, but if he's talking about historical usage of the word, like if he's talking about saying slave masters used to use then it'll be fine. But if someone says I'm going to kill, then that'll be a problem. That's basically what I'm understanding from the tweet. So again, they making a statement of the Jews were not classified as Jews because they were in the gas chamber in 1940. That wouldn't be anti-Semitic from what I'm thinking. But if someone says they're not the Jews at all, then that would be anti-Semitic from what I'm understanding from what he's saying. So it's to me, it's too subjective. It's too subjective, and I do feel bad for him because running a system like this does require a little bit of a human touch to analyze the information presented. But the way he's wording all of it is literally so vague that you don't know how much human influence is going into the machine. He's a bot, she's a bot, everyone is a bot. Before anyone can hunt bots, they need to figure out what a bot is, and that answer changes depending on who you ask. The internet is full of people accusing each other of being bots over petty political disagreements. Trolls are called bots. People with no profile picture and a few tweets or followers are called bots. Even among professional bot hunters, the answers differ. Bot Sentinel is trained to weed out what Bouzy calls problematic accounts, not just automated accounts. Indiana University informatics and computer science professor Filippo Mencha says the tool to help develop Botometer defines bots as accounts that are at least partially controlled by a software. Kathleen Curley is a computer science professor at the Institute of Software Research at Carnegie Mellon University, who has developed two bot detection tools, Bot Hunter, Bot Buster. Curley defines a bot as an account that is run completely automated software, a definition that aligns with Twitter's own. A bot is an automated account. Nothing more or less. The company wrote in a May 2020 blog post about platform manipulation. Just as definitions differ, the results these tools produce don't always align. An account flagged as a bot by Botometer, for example, might come back perfectly human-like on Bot Sentinel and vice versa. So for me, it's strange that they use Bot Sentinel as an example rather than Bot Hunter or Bot Buster. They could have used that to say it may come back as a different results there. If that was the case, I would say then this is all up in the air and no one knows. But because they haven't put it here, I feel like the three systems that they've pointed out actually does their jobs properly. Like they actually come back with the same results and it's pretty consistent off the board. But when it comes to Bot Sentinel, it doesn't. It kind of muddies the waters a bit. So again, what Chris Bouzy's account basically is saying, a bot can be a hybrid of a human and computer controlled. So therefore, your result will be different to mine. From what I'm understanding, that is the design of it. So I'm not going to read the entire article. I think we've gleaned basically what I wanted to get out of that article. You can go read it. I'm going to put it in the description box if you want more information of it. But the article is out there. So going back to the Twitter thread, Christopher Bouzy goes on to say, once the model is trained, we test the accuracy using accounts we monitor. Benchmarking and testing the model takes several days. I can imagine. And if we are not happy with the results, we start the training process over again. Using a poorly trained model would be disastrous. I cannot agree with you anymore, Christopher Bouzy. Yes, a poorly trained model would be disastrous. But how you create the model and what you're telling the model to do is also disastrous. So if the model is bad, everything is bad. You can't. I don't know what the whole saying is. If you use, if you use stale meat to make pasta, no matter how good if you use a stale meatball to make your pasta, no matter how good you have cooked your pasta, etc., that meat is still stale. So the model has to be good, and then before it can be trained to do something, basically. Which goes back to, what are you feeding the model? How are you building that model? And then before you are testing the samples, basically. Once we're satisfied with the model, it's uploaded to our production servers for public use. Sometimes people notice an increase in their scores. We update the classification model and it's perfectly normal. It's a new model trained with completely different samples. Don't you see the problem here? Like there is a problem. If you update every single time and it's bringing back different scores, it's not reliable. I think the concept of it, in terms of humans can learn, so their account would no longer be classed as problematic. If they were to start tweeting properly, so their scores go down as it's updated, and etc. That's the base thinking that I'm doing for this. But from what he is saying here, so they're continually training it and your scores can change afterwards, because But what about the scores that change and the people don't? Is my question to that. It's what I'm trying to say. They still make the same tweets, but it brings different scores, maybe even lower than the problematic score that they had before. My scores have shot up when Chris Bouzy blocked me from 46% to 53%, and then went back down, and I'm still tweeting about him. But I'm now back at 46%. The 2 times he's blocked me and I've tweeted him, my score shot up. But it's now back down, and I'm still tweeting him, even though he's blocked me. I'm still quoting him, just to show how conflicting what I'm reading actually is. And so he goes on to say, conversations on social media platforms change rapidly, so a classification model that is 4 to 5 months old will no longer be reliable. Fair enough. Which is why we update models every 6 to 8 weeks. FYI, our models are several gigabytes and loaded into memory. So how does Bot Sentinel rate an account? The classification process is the most confusing part for most people. Bot Sentinel classifies each recent tweet, and rating is based on the number of quote-unquote bad tweets. There are more bad tweets that are identified, the higher the score. For example, an account with 100 tweets and 15% Bot Sentinel score means Bot Sentinel identified 15 bad problematic tweets. An account with 100 tweets and a 75% score means Bot Sentinel identified 75 bad or problematic tweets. Bot Sentinel analyzes a max of 400 recent tweets. If you're saying a max, that means from 0 to 400, your tweets are being analyzed. So if you make one tweet, you should be picked up, right? Okay, let's see what it says on the next one. So what if someone has 0% score? There are 3 reasons why an account receives 0% score. No problematic tweets were found. That's likely. No English tweets were found. English. Keyword English. Hold on to that. Number 3. The account does not have at least 10 tweets. So it says the account doesn't have 10 tweets. So you're telling me that your account has a max of 400 tweets to analyze, but it doesn't analyze from 10 tweets. I'm sorry, but this is a clear problem. That account could tweet the N-word, every derogatory term there is, and stop there. And then someone picks up and retweets that, and that goes viral. YouTube suspend it, and that account goes into your model, but you don't detect it. Am I the only one that's seeing a problem here? Like, because there are people that literally search the N-word or whatever word, and then they find accounts like this, and then they put them on blast, and then it could do the rounds, etc. And then Twitter suspend them. But your account cannot pick up that tweet by default. This is a problem. It's the model. I keep saying what goes into the model. If this is the threshold and not 0, that is to me is a problem. But I get it. It needs a ground to start off with. But I'm pretty sure you can, if you are analyzing 3.2 million accounts tweets, and surely you just need 1 tweet to 5 tweets, at least 1 to 5, to at least determine a score for that account, not 10. Because 10 is basically, let's say all 10 were problematic tweets, and then he made 100 tweets, and the 90 was good, he is 10% normal. But he could have swore and said the N-word on all those words in those 10 tweets and still be normal, just because he carried on tweeting as normal. So that would be normal, right? Continuing it is, the beauty of Bot Sentinel is that a few problematic tweets will not affect the overall rating. Everyone has had a bad day. Bouzy. Bouzy. I'm gonna read that. You don't see the problem here. I could say the N-word and I had a bad day. You telling me that's okay? I can literally call someone the P word. I'm not gonna say it because I don't know. But the P word is, if you're from Pakistan, is a derogatory term. I'm gonna let Google take over from there. There are so many derogatory words that you could say that he's basically saying, if you say just that one word on that day, it's not going to affect your overall rating because you're probably having a bad day when you said it. If you said the Jews deserve to be gassed, just using an example, I don't actually mean that. I'm just saying that means you had a bad day. That's basically what he's saying here. You may not tweet that regularly. It just means you had a bad day. This is the guy that is looking over your tweets and reviewing what's good and bad, and cannot set up a machine to scan out those tweets and flag it up and influence their scores immediately, because clearly they would be problematic if they're using this at all. They should be, because that would be a clear violation of Twitter policies if reported. But no. Let me give an example. Let me give an example of both of these things that he basically said that Bot Sentinel can't pick up. Going back to, one, no problematic tweets were found. Like I said, that's fine. If no problematic tweets are found, that does deserve a 0% score. If no English tweets are found, now I've done a simple experiment myself. I went onto this guy's profile. He goes by a name of Yandre241. No English tweets. Right. He speaks Spanish. I speak Spanish. So I can understand his tweets. He says, cuando es mano de Ansu Fati, God no es gol, pero cuando es mano de puto Simioff Dumfries, ahí no es mano Vallarubo, ayunto himaen de N-word. So basically he's saying that there is an incident where Ansu Fati used his hand and he wasn't given as a goal. But Dumfries was given as a goal. In this tweet, he calls himself, he calls Denzel Dumfries, the right back for Inter Milan, as an ape because his goal was allowed. That's a bad day. From what I read of this tweet, according to Bouzy, this is a bad day because his team wasn't allowed a goal and Dumfries' goal was allowed. It's not like Dumfries used his hand. He didn't say it was a goal. It's just basically saying that he wasn't penalized for it, basically. And basically here's the image of the N-word and puts it out there. This, in my opinion, is very problematic. But let's check Bot Sentinel. What does he rate Yandre to? 0. Why does he rate Yandre 0? He has more than 10 tweets. He has 137 tweets. The analyzer analyzes 400 max tweets and 10 minimum tweets, from what I've understood, from what he's read. This should be at least disruptive, at least. But remember, it's in Spanish. So Bot Sentinel is actually right here by his logic. It's like Bot Sentinel is completely right because it cannot detect English tweets. So that makes sense. There's no English tweets on Yandre's account. There's no way for Bot Sentinel to know. Fair game. I understand. So let's look at the people that replied to the tweet. So this guy says, Kicks182 says, "Se ve que no te hablaron de pequeño," means you weren't hugged as a child. So now let's check out what Bot Sentinel thinks about Kicks182. Remember, this is Spanish. He doesn't speak anything but Spanish on his account. He has 5,000 plus tweets. So there's enough data there for Bot Sentinel to use. It's more than 10 tweets. So let's see what Bot Sentinel, it should be 0%. I must add, it must be 0%. Without a doubt. What does Bot Sentinel rate? It must be 0%, without a doubt. So what does Bot Sentinel rate Kicks 182? 9%. So he rates him 9%. That's fair. That's fair. But why? It's an English tweet. It's an English tweet that they're analyzing. This is Spanish. How is it determining that this guy is 9% normal? I want to know. If that's not enough, let's read this guy's tweet. He replies, "Mascara de simio tiene en sus fatigas." So it says, more ape face has Ansu fatigued, basically. That's basically what he's saying, or it would have Ansu fatigue or something like that. That's basically what he's saying. He's in support of what he said. So he's sharing on this bad day that this account had. Let's check Elder Eka score, 20%. Again, remember, those are the tweets. Elder Eka's, he's got 20% Bot Sentinel rating. He's got 8,000 tweets. Coincidentally, another account called Elder Ecas, without the underscore, has been suspended. So, I kid you not. So, this is two accounts speaking Spanish that shouldn't be filtered through this system because it's only English tweets. So, my mind is blown already. But let's see what Bot Sentinel thinks about this tweet. In fact, Twitter actually does hide this tweet. And it's from Fi Benedetto. It says, "Cuanto racismo public lacra de ser humano." He is the only one here that has actually called it out for what it is. The other guy, I think the other guy disagreed with the tweet because he basically said you weren't hug as a child. So, but this guy is basically saying this is racist. This is racist. You're scourging a human being. This is a poor scourging of a human being. He's not saying this is racist. I'm interpreting basically what he's saying word for word is how much racism, poor scourge of human being. That's basically on the face of it. That's what he says. But in English, it's basically saying this is racism. You are scourging a poor human being. This is a good tweet, in my opinion. If I'm seeing this is actually good. Let's see what Bot Sentinel gives it. Let's see what's 47%. Satisfactory. This guy has 2,000 tweets, 2,000 plus tweets, 2,800 something tweets, and he tweets basically football, and on his page it's just Spanish. So I want to know how this score is 47%, yet this guy is the one doing the defending. How is that not a good tweet? Maybe he's having a good day. I make it make sense is what I'm trying to say, because by this system's design, by this system's model, this should be 0%. He goes on to say, what about false positives? Yes, false positives are possible. However, Bot Sentinel classifies each tweet separately, and 300% 300 plus false positives is highly unlikely. An account that is rated problematic should be avoided, especially if the account has over 400 tweets. I think people should watch out for you, because you can't even detect that these accounts are problematic or not, or disruptive or not, or normal or satisfactory. Because at least say your system has a translation code or embedded within the model that does attempt to translate these tweets, and sometimes it can be faulty, but it prioritizes English tweets. Let's say that. But literally, this guy says there's no English tweets. So by default, this account that tweeted him goes on to say, "Hey Chris, guess what? I'm not English speaking user," and it was problematic. I've looked over this guy's account. There is no way this guy is a problematic user. The guy tweets about football. He tweeted about the crisis in Indonesia. He retweeted about that, about how the stadiums were being destroyed, and sorry, not being destroyed. How the pitch was being invaded, and retweeted a lot of stuff. The only things, and this goes back to 2017, 2018. I've looked over this account. He tweets about the Flash, and all that. Are you saying that's problematic because maybe Ezra Miller is, I don't know, it's not in the show, it's Grant Gustin, but I'm trying to say, what makes this guy problematic? Okay, why does Twitter suspend accounts that are rated normal? An account rated normal doesn't mean it isn't violating Twitter rules. That's true. That account could have been evading suspension. That's true. Or tweeting something bad enough to warrant suspension. That's also true. Twitter suspends accounts, not Bot Sentinel. That's very true. Moving on. Do you manually rate accounts? No. It would be impossible to rate millions of accounts manually. In a podcast, I said we manually flag fake news tweets for tweet alerts. That is something entirely different than rating individual accounts. Also, tweet alerts is now automatic. I'm confused. Why did you bring that up? What does flagging fake news tweets got to do with rating accounts? I personally don't know with that one. But if you're flagging fake news tweet, meaning you're reporting it, is he saying that this would affect your score? I have no idea. Okay, you said Bot Sentinel isn't perfect, but it's the most accurately public available tool. What do you mean? Anyone who understands machine learning and algorithms know perfect doesn't exist yet. But I believe Bot Sentinel is the most accurate publicly available tool. Oh, okay, that's fair enough. We all have beliefs, you know. I really do believe that one day me and Scarlett Johansson are going to get married. One day I'm going to bump into her in London and we're going to tie the knot and have beautiful mixed race babies. That's my belief. Reality kicks in. Not going to pan out, is it? It falls apart when I start explaining how that's going to happen. Same way you can believe your algorithm is the best in the market, but it falls apart. The wheels are coming off as you're riding his bike. Does Bot Sentinel rate Republicans higher than Democrats? No. And this is the biggest myth. Bot Sentinel doesn't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. Lots of accounts operated well-known Democrats have lower scores than mine. That's actually true. Sobus is one of them. Bot Sentinel is 18. I think Sobus is 9%. So he's got a point there. Is Bot Sentinel just a random number generator? Don't be ridiculous. We have an MPI that anyone can access. Why are Taliban accounts rated low? As stated earlier, Bot Sentinel only cares about the content of a tweet and if it's in English. If an account recent tweets aren't problematic, or if the account is tweeting in a language other than English, it will have a low rating. You may have not noticed that 40% of problematic accounts we track are either deactivated or suspended. Why? Remember, 75% or more recent tweets are problematic. So when someone reports a problematic account, Twitter moderators will most likely find numerous violations. This thread was intended for people who genuinely wanted to know about the training and classification process. It wasn't meant to convince people who believe in wild conspiracy theories and can't accept facts. 10 minutes using our API debunks every conspiracy theory. Finn. Okay, Finn, in my own case, well, I'm just going to end on it here, really. This whole thing is actually a mess. In all fairness, based on everything I was talking about, there is no way that this machine should be picking up any form of tweets. that are not in English, because that doesn't make sense. Remember, he goes from 0% to low rating. What I'm trying to say is that they both can't coexist in one based on what he has said. There is no way it can be 0% and a low rating if its machine cannot literally detect tweets. I have heard some of his defenders say that it's retweets, so therefore its machine can detect that. But hold on, Christopher Bouzy never said this. He never said retweets can be factored into this whole analysis and determining someone's score. Not once in that thread. This is why I would have preferred, at least I can excuse all of this if he was to say, we don't select the accounts, somebody else selects the accounts, a third party selects the accounts, they look over the accounts per the guidelines. Heck, he could even use Twitter and say, Twitter, you select the accounts, you have banned accounts before, you know which accounts would violate guidelines, you do the selection, give it to us, we will put it into our algorithm. Anything like that. I understand budget. I understand you are a company that's, that's not that's a free platform. But if you're transparent, because that's how you're trying to be right now, this would be in your forefront. This would be what you'd be considering. Or at least not blur the line so much. That's all I have to say about this whole situation, because honestly, it is the machine itself, great in concept, but it is a mess. Me personally, I tried to be as objective as possible. I tried to understand where it's coming from, but he's lost me in so many places that I have no choice but to infer or guess what could be happening, because he's being very vague. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. We are working on plenty more videos to release onto the channel. I will be covering a lot of legal cases. There are a lot. I will be looking at covering the Darrell Brooks case. I'll be looking at covering the Ariana Jacobs versus New York Times and Taylor Lorenz case. I am also doing a She-Hulk breakdown and why I think it's, why I think it's not as bad as you think it might be. It's gonna be a very unpopular video because a lot of people don't like that show, but I have different opinions. And also, I will also be reviewing Don't Worry Darling. So those videos are set to be uploaded onto the channel. Do like, share, and subscribe to this video, to this channel. Do like, share, and subscribe to. So do like and share this video. Leave your comments below and provide feedback so that we can improve the quality of videos that we do. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, if you did not like the video, I appreciate you for giving us your time. Take care of yourself and stay blessed.